And
Well, I just comment, I mean, it's been about 2 years ago, we did change that. We've seen where we were having to use that long-term bond money for short-term stuff. So, you know, the buses, the IT stuff, we stopped doing that. We did change the policy where we don't do it anymore.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is one of the fiscal mismanagement issues that's out there. The district has spent about 14% of its bond money over the last several years on assets like this that don't survive the length of the bond. So that's 14% of the money that could have been used to build buildings, which is their biggest concern is we need to build more buildings. So right there is 14% off the top used for things that they shouldn't. Here in the city, we have a fund that we've created that we fund every year, a little bit of money in, and we just buy the assets out of the fund. We don't use bond money to buy cop cars or to buy fire trucks or to buy vehicles, gradalls and things like that. We either use our fund balance, which is healthy, as is the school districts, or we use the vehicle equipment replacement fund. And we exercise that kind of fiscal discipline that every year, for every single asset we have, we put a little bit of money into an account, and then when that asset's life is up, we have the money sitting in the bank to go buy another one. And the school district could learn from that, and that would really help their situation quite a bit.
Thank you.
Well, the school district has learned from that, and it's learned from a lot of other things. And we don't do things like the city all the time. It's a different environment. We're constrained by a lot of state and federal guidelines. We do, as he was talking about, we do have a maintenance fund that we put money into, that we accumulate. And we try to buy out of M&O when we can. Well, let's go back to 2011 when the state cut us $22 million. We laid a lot of people off. We changed a lot of people's jobs. And we're constrained right now on our M&O side that we don't have that money. You talk about buying portables. We don't have the money to buy portables because when we buy a portable out of M&O, you've got your 2 teachers potentially that's going to go, or 2 administrators, or 2 somebodies. It's about $80,000 for a portable today. So, and we're also having to operate under the 50-cent cap. And, that's in legislation right now, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. But it's just a known fact that we're constrained a lot different than cities are constrained. They have no caps. They can do what they want. They can manage their debt the way they see fit as they come in. We're obligated. Every student that walks through the door, we're obligated to give him a seat. And that's all we can do.
Okay, for this question, number 2.
Is there no sir rebuttal?
Just one rebuttal.
Okay.
However, as I was just getting to mention, you will be answering this one first.
Could you speak up just a tad?
Sure. It's for number 2, but the order for the responses is going to be Cobby, sorry, I'm so sorry. Cobby, then Don, and then Cobby. And then we'll go to Lisa,
No.
Trish, then Lisa, then Trish. Number 2. Currently, citizen comments are only allowed prior to the agenda items with no comments allowed after specific agenda items. Such a comment policy is in contrast to how other local governments conduct meetings. Consequently, the most relevant comments are in response to the prior meeting's agenda items. Would you consider changing how and when citizen comments are made?
Yeah, this is a topic that I've actually written about and have been campaigning on. There's several things that can happen when a citizen talks during citizens' comments. There's an Attorney General opinion from 98 or 99 that says you can't talk to the citizens during that period of time. But if they're talking about something that's on the agenda, why don't you call up the agenda item and then you can have a dialogue with those citizens? That's a simple, easy fix. Another thing you can do is that even if you don't do that, any trustee is allowed to ask staff for a statement of what is our policy on this topic. A question just came up at the last board meeting where somebody said that their child was being forced to take the STAR test when they had sent them to school specifically to refuse to take the test. And any trustee could have said to the administration, is that our policy? Do we force children to take the test when their parents have told us they don't want to? No one did that. The other thing they can do is any trustee can say, I'd like an agenda item about this at a future meeting. That way it's a formal agenda item that can be talked about. And again, if you invite the public to speak during the agenda item, or you call the agenda item up when they speak during citizens' comments so you can dialogue, you can actually have a discussion that allows the elected officials to discuss with the public what's going on, instead of just being talked at and then ignored, which is how most people feel when they go speak at a school board meeting. And I know because I've been one of them.
Don?
Our policy as far as allowing citizens comment, we set that some years ago, many years ago, when I first got on the board, because we wanted to give the citizens an opportunity at 7 o'clock to have their comments so they wouldn't have to stay. Our meetings were going to 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and some still do. So if we change it, I'm not objecting to changing that, but keep in mind, we're conducting school business there. It's not a public meeting per se. It's a meeting, school business meeting in public. So we have to watch what and how we conduct it. We've got to be careful what we say. We've got to be careful that we don't respond. And we do talk to staff afterwards on some of these questions. We may not do it during the meeting, but we do talk to them. We listen. So I'm not objecting to change it, but keep in mind, I mean, there's citizens would have to stay potentially till 10, 11 o'clock at night to get their questions answered.
And that's exactly why what I said at the beginning of my comment, you call the agenda item up when the citizen speaks. If 15 people have signed up to talk about an agenda item you're not going to get to for 6 hours, you call it up then. And you say, let's have this agenda item now. I want to hear the public. I want them to be able to interact with staff. I want to be able to interact with them. And it is, in fact, a public meeting. It is a meeting for the public to watch the government work, but the government should also listen to the people. You have a constitutional right under the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 27, and the U.S. Constitution, the First Amendment, to petition the government for redress of grievances. How do you effectively have a petition to redress your grievances if you get to speak for 3 minutes, they can't respond, and you leave and go home, and they carry on their meeting, and 6 hours later they talk about your topic? You know, what they say is, we'll file a grievance. They have a formal process that takes about a month and a half to get through that will eventually get you to the board. It's a lot simpler when it's an issue that a lot of people want to talk about to just call the agenda item forward. You don't have to follow the agenda item by item by item by item. You can call any item up. The board chair has that discretion. Any member could suggest that. And frankly, I'm just disappointed that nothing like that has ever been done during their meetings. Other people do it. We did it at the city all the time. Other governmental entities that I've been in front of do it all the time. You want to have a dialogue with the citizens because you're working for them. You're the public servant.
Right.
Trish, are you ready to answer?
Sure, I am. Quick show of hands, how many people have testified in a House or Senate hearing or a State Board of Education hearing? Okay, good. Then I know some of my people know how long those hearings go to. You can sign up to testify, and you might be there till 2, 3 a.m. in the morning. In fact, insurance last night, house insurance lasted until 3 a.m. State Board of Education meetings, we've had Leander parents want to talk about the TEKS and talk to their State Board of Education members. But the way it was done, the agenda items and all the people that were lined up to speak, they didn't get to speak until, what was it, 6, 7 o'clock, but they were there at 8 o'clock in the morning. They didn't have any way to gauge how long they needed to be. When testifying could last all day long, it's good when they have a time. So I do like that part, that you have a specific time that you can say what your grievance is and they will listen and hear. But I also agree with points that both Cobby and Don are making. There needs to be a way where citizens know their comments are heard. It's not just about airing your issue. It's about getting the response and knowing that there can be change. And that needs to be addressed because citizens need to know when you are out there and you're helping and you're saying, I have an issue, you need to know you're heard. I just don't know if putting you at 2 a.m. in the morning is the best way to do that.
Hi there. We do have our citizens' comments at 7. I think when you're dealing with parents of small children, that it's a good thing to have them all at the same time. I don't know if we would have time to go through, and I do think Cobby has a good point that we could pull an agenda item. We actually have done that sometimes when there have been a group of people who wanted to talk about a particular item. We have pulled and changed the agenda, but the board president sets the agenda, and that's her discretion. I will say just one thing on citizens' comment that's slightly off target on this, but we have saved a ton of money, at least in attorneys' fees, because we used to have all of our attorneys sit and they would come and wait until the very end, and we now do a closed session at the beginning and then have citizens' comments, the public, we start at 6:15, and then at 7 o'clock, we do the citizens' comments and start the second, open session. So that is one area where we've saved some money rejuggling things around. I'm up for looking and having a conversation about our board operating procedures and how that would work and what would work best for our community. I do think that when citizens do come and testify, that our administration has a very good track record of actually looking into the issues that they come and bring before us and responding back. At least sometimes we do that stuff in closed session because it might have legal implications, but we do address, you are heard when you come and speak before us, at least.
But the bottom line, we still have to figure out how citizens know they're heard. Citizens still need to get a response. And we have some people in our Leander community that's saying, I am talking and talking and nobody's responding, nobody's listening. And that's not acceptable. Something has to change. We have to be approachable as a board. Maybe during citizens' comment, that's not the place. But approachability has to happen.
Thank you. Okay, for number 3, the order will be Dawn, Cobby, Dawn, Lisa, Trish, Lisa. Okay. Number 3, how would you describe LISD's current fiscal solvency, and if you see a need for improvement, what would you propose?
I'm assuming you're talking about the bond debt, correct?
Fiscal solvency.
We have about $1.1 billion debt. We have a plan that's going to work that down, or at least work on it for the next 10 years with the assumed growth rate that we have. I can give you a lot of reasons how we got there because, I stay very in tune with the citizens in the community. I spend a lot of time in the schools. I spend a lot of time talking to parents. And over the years, they basically told us they wanted a smooth tax rate. They didn't want to jump it up and down every year, every time appraisals went up or went down. So we managed that in that manner. Right or wrong, we did it that way. Now, as far as the debt that we have today, we have a board retreat Monday night. We've got a lot of new things coming. We've now installed a new FA. We've got a new CFO. Who's a really, really good guy. He's a CPA. So there's a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of different analysis that are going on that's looking at our debt and what we need to do to move it down. But it's going to be there for a while. I mean, we're looking at potentially another 10,000 kids in the next 10 years. So we're going to be forced to build some more. Now, I will tell you, based on the information I got today, there's a lot of cab bills in the legislature. Let them go, because we don't care. We probably will use a cab again. We're in a position now, even looking at potentially $900 million more of debt in the next 10 years, that we are going to be able to do it all with a SIB, and that's going to be a big win for us.
So a bunch of things here in 1 minute, and maybe I'll go over. They've not kept the tax rate level. The tax rate in 2004 was 35 cents for bond side, okay? The next year it was 33 cents. The year after that it was 30 cents. They lowered it in 06, 07 when they were having bond elections. It immediately began going up. Since 2010, it's gone up 15 cents. So the bond rate's gone from 30 cents to 47 cents in that time period, in 8 years. So they've not kept it level. At that same time, our tax property values have gone up significantly too. So the school's bite of taxes has gotten bigger every single year by a lot. Now, the district is fiscally solvent from the standpoint that it can pay its debts right now. It is able to operate its schools, and that's good. They do have constraints on their spending, which the legislature has seen fit to put on them. Other school districts are operating just fine without resorting to caps. Other school districts do not build a school and then leave it empty for 3 years because they can't afford to operate it, which they did with Reed Elementary here in Cedar Park. Other school districts have not built a middle school for, $40 million and left it empty for a year because they couldn't afford to operate it. I don't know why there's a disconnect in this school district between building something and operating it. Again, I'm gonna talk about the city a lot because I do things at the city, and I'm sorry if the school district doesn't like that. We don't ever look at any bond project in this city without looking at how much it's gonna cost every single year to operate that asset. And if we can't operate it, then we're not gonna build it. We're gonna figure out a way to ramp up. We're gonna build it in phases. It's a good question. Why don't they build the high schools in phases anymore? That's how they built Cedar Park. That's ultimately how they built Vandergrift. Why did they build the entirety of High School 6, Tom Glen High School, now? Why did they use cabs to do it? Why are they paying 5.5 to 1 on those cabs? Why didn't they build it in phases? They're only going to put a ninth grade in it the first year. That's 700 kids. You don't need to have the entire school built. Now I know there's some construction savings by not doing it over time, but when you look at the time value of money, you look at the compound interest that they're paying on that cab debt, I would suspect that the analysis would show you'd be better off building it in phases. And that's the kind of stuff that they need to start thinking differently than how they've always done it. And that's why I want to run for the school board is it's time to infect them with some new ideas and at least talk about it and at least have a good public discussion.
John, before you give the rebuttal, I've been told that we're running over and we've got lots of questions that we'd like to ask. So if you guys don't want to start getting buzzed, I suggest you stay through the time. Thank you. Or as close as you can without stopping mid-sentence.
I'm waiting for Paul to rush us.
I was glad that the issue with Leonard Reed came up because we did stall that school. When we took a downturn in 2008, we were in the middle of building that school. We decided as a board, as a community, that we had community input on, that the 6 to 7% escalation in construction cost every year cost us much more if we didn't finish it up. And once we did build it, as we started waiting, we looked at it each year, and the startup phase, remember I said we got cut $22 million. So we didn't have the money, the $600,000+ to start it up. So there's lots of reasons. We didn't build Vandergrift in phases. We added on Vandergrift because it was only supposed to have been, based on demographics, 1,800 students down there. So we came back, since they were building them on sides of hills, we had to come back and basically build them, add facilities to it. So there's a lot of reasons. If someone is really interested and really understood it, they'd come to the meetings, they could understand what's going on. But a lot of decisions are made based on that.
So this is going to go to you, Lisa, and Tricia next.
All right. As far as fiscal solvency, you have to ask, are we really solvent if we can't pay our debt using current interest bonds? If we can't pay the interest on the debt we're issuing, are we solvent? If you look at our certified annual financial report, you will see that Leander ISD has a negative net worth. When I came on the board, I think that negative net worth was somewhere in the range of $68 million. During the time that I've been serving, because of the accretion interest on the deferred bonds that we're not making any payments on for 26 years, that interest accretes every year. We owe that interest eventually 26 years down the line. It shows up on our financial statement. And we have a negative net worth. I think it's now $200 million. How, as we move forward, how deep in the hole do we want to go? So I think we really need, this is why I've been pushing for this new financial advisor to bring us some new solutions. We're not going to go bankrupt. The bonds that we issue are unlimited taxation. We can raise your taxes to pay for them. Time, I apologize.